There are many valid motivations for wanting to become a full time content creator. Maybe you want to do content creation full time because it'll give you more flexibility in your schedule. Maybe you want to do it because you want to have a job that allows you to travel the world while you're working. Maybe you want to connect with other people online who share your interests. Or maybe you're looking for a job that might be able to pay better than what you are used to. And I think content creation offers all of those things. I don't think I would say most creators start off this career path purely because of the money, but you can't deny the fact that obviously the financial side plays a bit into it. And I personally really believe for a lot of people, content creation represents an opportunity to make a lot more money than you could in other careers that you might be considering. Like for me in particular, when I graduated from university after studying like communications and digital media, I was looking at getting a job in marketing at like a tech company, for instance. And I can tell you for sure that 5 years into being, say, like a marketing manager at a tech company, my salary would not be anywhere near what I am now making from my business. So, content creation represents a huge financial opportunity, maybe even building a six-figure business, which is what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about the major factors that go into being able to build a financially successful content business. Welcome to the Creator Club. Honestly, though, one of the key factors that goes into building a successful content business is being aware of and deeply understanding your social media metrics. And my personal favorite way to do that is with Dash Hudson, who is the sponsor of this season of the Creator Club podcast. Dash Hudson is honestly a game changer for content creators because you're able to sync all of your social platforms in one place, whether that be YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. You can see all of your insights in one user friendly dashboard based system using Dash Hudson. And in addition to visual insights that are easy to interpret because of the way Dash Hudson lays them out, they also have really awesome features like their AI tool called Vision, which allows you to upload content pieces you're thinking about posting, and it will actually give you a prediction based on the performance of your past content about whether or not it's going to perform well once you do post it. Something that I love to do on Dash Hudson is actually use their board features for my Instagram stories so that I can analyze my Instagram story insights based on different chunks of time. So I'll create an Instagram storyboard for like the month of August, the month of September, the month of October, and then I can analyze on the larger scale how my content performed in a given month. I find this especially useful for stories because you just can't do this kind of granular analysis in the Instagram insights section of the app. If you want to have a good handle on your analytics, I personally think that Dash Hudson is essential, and you can actually grab a free trial of Dash Hudson at the link in the show notes. So make sure you go check that out. I promise it's going to be a game changer for your content production and your confidence with what you're posting on social media. So thanks again to Dash Hudson for sponsoring this season of the Creator Club podcast. So before we dive in to my tips, I wanted to give you a bit of a background of my business story of how I was able to build a content creation business that generates over six figures in revenue and now over six figures in profit each year, which is still like really crazy for me to say. So it all started when I was a very cringy and awkward 12-year-old making YouTube videos. I always loved creating content for the internet as like a hobby and a passion project. And that was consistent in my life all through high school and university. And as that time went on, I started to see how content creation could be a career because I was seeing lots of people become full time content creators. And I just loved making YouTube videos so much that I knew I wanted to pursue that. So when I graduated university, I decided, like, I'm going to do this full time. Like, this is going to be my thing. Only problem is I only have like 2,500 subscribers. And I knew enough about the influencer creator economy at the time to know that that was not going to be enough to support a full time income. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get enough brand deals, do enough affiliate marketing, make enough AdSense to really represent like a salary. So at the time, I decided to start freelancing and using the skills that I had built up in creating all this YouTube content and other social content over the years and put that to work for other people. So I started doing freelance gigs for local clients. I would like film real estate tours, I would film weddings, I would do social media content for local businesses. And that's how I made a bit of an income while I was sort of continuing to post on YouTube and waiting for my channel to grow. I was posting 2 YouTube videos a week on top of all of that freelancing. And this was sort of late 2018 into early 2019. And after probably about 6 or 7 months of that consistent posting and also doing freelance work, I finally had a YouTube video really pop off in the algorithm. It was Instagram story hacks for creators 2019. And that video eventually ended up getting over 1 million views and growing my channel from about 2,500 subscribers to over 40,000 subscribers in 2019. And that really changed my life and set my business on a different trajectory for growth. So from that point on, I continued doing the freelance client work, though eventually that grew into what is now Creatorly Media, which is my agency where we offer, editing services, social strategy services to creators and small business owners. That kind of continued to grow. And then obviously my other income streams around brand deals and affiliate marketing and digital products also grew as my audience continued to scale. So that's really my story of eventually growing a 6 figure business. It did not happen right away, though. It was sort of like a slow build over time. I went from in 2019 making around $20,000 to by 2022 making about $90,000 in a year. And back last year in 2023 was the first time my business broke 6 figures in profit. And that was around $270,000. So things have obviously grown a lot. And I feel incredibly grateful for it. Like, I feel like the numbers still don't even feel real to me, but I just know that being a content creator has given me so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had I not pursued this career, which is why I'm so enthusiastic about sharing these tips and my own story with you, with people online, because I know how life changing it can be to fully pursue this. So that's my own story in building a 6 figure content creation business. Today, I want to dive in to how you can do it and what I see as the most influential factors in being able to grow a profitable content business. Okay, step one. If you want long term success, you need to find your passion first. I know that might sound cheesy or a little fluffy, but I think it's really, really true. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make as a beginner content creator is starting to create content about something that you're not completely enthusiastic and excited about. The reason for this is it is so easy to get pigeonholed on social media. It's so easy to end up being known for just one thing. And in general, as a content creator, you kind of need to push against that if you want to be able to post about a variety of content and have that content all perform well for you. So that's why it's so important that whatever it is you do end up posting about, it's something that you care deeply about and that you can make content about for a long, long time without getting bored, because that's what you're going to have to do. And you don't want to end up feeling really burnt out talking about this topic that you chose just because you thought that's what you should create content about. The best way to really determine what content you truly are passionate about is by asking yourself really 2 main questions. First of all, what kind of content do you like to consume? That's going to be a really great indicator of probably what you would also enjoy making. And then, second of all, what kind of content would the audience that I want to connect with want to consume? Because it's also really, really important to consider who your community members are going to be. I really like the exercise of using the hypothetical question of what would I post about if I had a million followers and I knew they were going to be super engaged no matter what. That might be a good indication of what you truly want to be posting about online rather than what you think is kind of the strategic move for you. And I'm just really a big proponent of the philosophy that you need to kind of take a path that's actually going to be personally satisfying for you and fulfilling. I think a lot of other people that are giving like social media strategy tips often just focus on like what's strategic, what's going to make the most money. And obviously that's important. We're talking about making six figures from content here, people. That's what the episode's about. But I really believe that you'll never be able to reach that financial success if you literally like hate what you're doing. Like if you resent the niche that you've kind of chosen for yourself. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you stay aligned with your passion and that you don't kind of sacrifice that for the sake of a strategy to an extent. It's important to frame your content in a way that's going to be, perceived well by other people or going to be consumable to other people. So there's always going to be a balance between sort of passion and art and business. But I guess my argument would be you don't want to lean so far into the business that you end up hating what you do because then you might as well just go get a job, right? Then the whole content creator thing doesn't make as much sense if you literally resent doing it. So make sure that you're led by what you're passionate about. Step two is creating a sustainable content plan before you even press record. This is where we really start to get strategic and where you really want to think about the return on investment of every piece of content that you're making as you design your content strategy. So, what I mean by content strategy is like this is kind of like the skeleton of what will become your content calendar. It's almost like you're laying out empty boxes on the table and you're labeling them with what you are going to put in them. We're not filling them just yet. We're not actually making the content, but we're planning out what those boxes are going to be. And at this stage, if you can create this strategy with the foresight of wanting to build a profitable business, you're going to have just a much easier time generating revenue and building that six-figure content business because your content is actually going to be working towards that goal. Because the thing is there's many different goals when it comes to creating content. You can think about just getting the most reach, going as viral as possible, getting the most followers, getting the most engagement. All of these different things can be achieved by different means. And making money from your content is another goal that's going to be achieved by, again, different means. So it's just important to keep that in mind because otherwise, I feel like a lot of creators can end up kind of spinning their wheels, just making more and more content, ending up on this treadmill of content creation without actually seeing progress in terms of the financial side of things. So that's why it's so important to keep this in mind when you're building out that strategy. And so basically, this strategy comes down to what you're going to post, where you're going to post it, and how often you are going to post it, which sounds very simple, but you really do want to think through all of these different aspects and how they're going to contribute to your overall business plan. When it comes to where to post, I am a huge fan of posting where you like to consume. You're going to be the most effective creator on a platform where you understand the culture, you understand the vibe, and you are on there actively consuming content, even when it's not for research or for work. You're just going to be a more enthusiastic creator on a platform that you genuinely love. So that's a really good place to start. And of course, I also always recommend choosing one timely and one evergreen platform to have a good balance. So maybe YouTube and Instagram or a podcast and TikTok, whatever suits your own preferences, but it's nice to have that balance. When it comes to what you're actually going to post or sort of developing content pillars, I think this is really the key where you can start to consider how these content pillars map onto how you're actually going to make money. So, part of your content pillar consideration is, of course, going to be what do you care about making? What do you really enjoy making? And what does your audience want to see from you? That definitely is going to inform this, but also thinking about how can you connect each of these content pillars to the ways that you're going to make money. So I'll give you an example with my own content. So let's just say one of my content pillars for Instagram is talking about gear for creators, like different cameras, lenses, microphones, that kind of thing. I know that people are really interested in that. I always get questions about that from my audience, like what camera should I buy? What's the best microphone for YouTube, that sort of thing. And I also find it fun. Like I love researching these kinds of things and trying out new pieces of gear. So it definitely fulfills that side of the equation of I'm passionate about it. I know my audience is too. But it also maps on to my business model and my revenue sources in that making tech videos is a really great way for me to generate affiliate commission because when I highlight a certain piece of gear in a Instagram reel, for example, I'm able to then say, head to the link in my bio for the link to purchase this, and I can use an affiliate link. So that's the kind of high level sort of strategic thinking that I'm advocating for here is thinking about not only, okay, I know that gear and tech is something that I'm passionate about and my audience is passionate about. Okay, check mark, we've got that. But also, here's how it maps on to how I'm going to make money. So, like another example would be I love talking about organization and systems and like templates and stuff. So, I know that I could make that one of my content pillars so that I can post about my content calendar or my brand partnerships database and I can share about the strategies that I use to stay organized and then I have a very natural call to action to say, and by the way, you can check out my content creator starter kit to get all the Notion templates that I've talked about in this reel or whatever. And that's how it maps on for a way for me to make money. And then some content pillars are just going to work well for potential brand integrations, for you to partner with a brand and feature them. And that's obviously a way to generate revenue. So that's the kind of thinking that I want you to apply to your overall content strategy when you are in this pursuit of generating a six-figure revenue with your content is really understanding how each of your content pillars give you opportunities for monetization and figuring out how you can actually put that into action. And then when it comes to the question of how often to post, I think this is just a matter of scale because once you realize how each post gives you an opportunity to generate revenue, then you can begin to scale your revenue kind of the more often you post. There's going to be a balance there because obviously you are going to eventually kind of reach a plateau where you're going to get diminishing returns on posting more and more often because people are just going to get inundated if you're posting like 20 reels a day. But as you are able to reach more people and continue to use those content pillars that connect back to a way you can monetize, then you can start to actually increase your revenue through the content you're posting. And I feel like that's really the missing link that a lot of creators struggle with is like, okay, I'm able to create content and I'm starting to increase my reach, but how do I actually turn that into dollars in my bank account? And that is really the key to it is understanding how each content pillar can really naturally and organically connect to a pitch, a call to action, something that people can buy from you. So, all of that stuff is really great in theory, but in order to put it into practice, you really need step number three, which is creating habits and routines around your content creation. As cheesy as it sounds, the truth is consistency is key. I know, I know you probably cringed a little bit when I said that, but we kind of in the previous step developed this framework, right, for the content that you can post and the way that it translates into revenue generation for you, right? But the only way that that is actually going to contribute significantly to your income is through doing it on a really consistent basis, which is where systems and routines come into place. I am such a nerd for this kind of thing. And there's just something so satisfying to me about having a recurring routine, like a recurring system that you know you can do week after week, and it's going to help you stay consistent with whatever your goals are. I think probably the best way for me to explain this is just to talk you through what my current content creation routine looks like. And then you can kind of consider your own life and your own commitments and figure out how you can maybe use a similar model, but modify it so it's suiting with your life and your schedule. So, this is my typical week. On Monday, I sit down. I love Mondays because all I need to do is edit my YouTube videos. And I love editing YouTube videos. It's kind of like my favorite part of my job. So I'm actually going to be editing the video that I recorded last week, which we'll get to more detail on that later. But that's basically my primary job on Monday is editing that video and getting it ready to send off for review, which is what I do on Tuesday morning. So Tuesdays is actually when I upload my videos, but don't be fooled. I'm not uploading the video that I just edited yesterday because pretty much all of my YouTube videos now have a brand integration in them. So I need to send them for review. So my personal kind of policy, this is probably more time than I would need to give, but I send my videos in 7 days before they are going to be uploaded. So on Tuesdays, last week's video gets uploaded and this coming week's video gets sent to the brand for their review. And of course, I'm also sending an invoice to the video sponsor that's going live today. That is kind of Tuesday. Historically, also on Tuesdays, I've used this day to write my Reels scripts. So, write out what I'm going to be saying in the Reels that I'm making this week. Next up is Wednesday. Wednesday is my YouTube script writing day. So this is when I sit down and write out the next video that I'm going to be filming. Wednesdays is also when I normally record my podcast, though the podcast workflow has changed a little bit now that we're here in the Creator Club video studio, which you might have noticed. So I can talk about that in a different future episode, how we're producing the podcast now. But historically, Wednesdays was podcast recording day, YouTube script writing day, and I would also record my reels that day. I would film the reels that I was going to post the following week. Thursdays is when I edit those reels and I also review a bunch of stuff for Creatorly Media. So I go in and review our weekly newsletter and our social content for the next week, and I get those reels edited. And then on Friday is my filming day. That is when I sit down and film the video that I'm going to edit the following Monday. And I like to do it this way because then I have a bit of a break over the weekend where I have some distance from what I filmed. So I'm not like super bored of it and wanting to rush through it when I sit down to edit, which kind of used to be more so the case when I would like film Tuesdays and then edit on Wednesdays. So that is kind of how my workflow works. And part of why I've landed on this, because like I just alluded to, things used to be different. The reason why I film on Fridays is because I live in a 500 square foot basically studio apartment. I work from home full time and so does my husband Dan, and Friday is the day when he has the least Zoom meetings. So it's when it's quiet enough for me to film. That is why I have the routine that I do. Also, I've been posting to YouTube on Tuesdays for a long time, so it just kind of works out well that way. But the point is, you got to figure out what works well with your schedule. What are the existing kind of time blocks that you have pinned down in your calendar that you know you can't change, and try to work around that. Also, I know that my routine is quite extensive because we covered YouTube, podcasting, Instagram, email newsletter. You don't have to do all of that all at once, especially at the beginning. So, whatever it is you are doing, maybe it's just 3 reels a week on Instagram. Then you can say, okay, Tuesday, I'm going to spend an hour writing out my scripts. Wednesday, I'm going to spend an hour filming everything. And then Thursday, I'm going to spend an hour editing everything and getting it scheduled for the following week. Whatever that looks like for you, right? Depending on the stuff that you have going on in your life. I recommend sitting down and making a list of every separate task that you need to do in order to create the content that you want to create. So, right, previously in our last step, we were kind of thinking about what are those content pillars going to be and how often are you going to post. So, if you've determined that you're going to post one YouTube video a week, then what you need to do is create a list of everything that goes into creating that YouTube video. So, writing the script, filming the A roll, filming the B roll, editing the video, designing the thumbnail, writing the description. All of that stuff can go on one list, and then you can start breaking it down into, okay, when do I have free time in my calendar? When kind of makes sense throughout my week to do this, and start plotting it out. This is going to be hugely helpful in actually being consistent. Like, I feel like so many people talk about the importance of consistency, and we all get it. We all know that you have to post more than once if you want to grow an audience online. Okay, we get it. But what's difficult is actually being consistent. And it's because so many people see it as a question of willpower and motivation when it's completely not. It's entirely a question of habit and routine. Because the thing is, once you do something more than once and it becomes part of your routine, it is like 10 times easier to do that thing. If you brush your teeth every day, you don't have to motivate yourself to brush your teeth. You just do it. And the same is true with these content creation tasks. If you get used to filming a YouTube video every single week, you don't have to motivate yourself to film a YouTube video. You're just like, oh, it's Friday, so I'm going to film today. So that is really what you're aiming for when it comes to developing these systems, because this is going to be the way to become consistent, which is essential to building a profitable content business. If you're feeling overwhelmed with Instagram content creation or developing a strategy that makes sense for you or your audience, then I wanted to tell you about my agency, Creatorly Media. Over at Creatorly Media, we work with content creators and small business owners to develop Instagram strategies that authentically connect with their audiences. We have a couple different services to choose from, whether you need help with just developing your strategy and then you create the content from there, or if you'd like the full service option where we develop your content calendar and create your content for you. Both are available and all of the details are over at creatorlymedia.com. We know these services have been such a game changer for our clients in terms of helping them to stay consistent and connect with their audiences more often. And I know it just takes a big stress off their shoulders and allows them to focus on what they love doing most, which is running their business. So if that sounds like it would be helpful for you, check out all the details at creatorlymedia.com or head to the link in the show notes. Step number 4 is really consciously deciding on those income streams. And not every single income stream is going to be right for you, but there are a lot to choose from. So I already kind of started to allude to the income stream thing when we were talking about mapping on your content pillars to different ways that you can make money. So let's just do a little bit of a deep dive into the potential income streams that you may want to utilize and which ones I think are kind of the most profitable. So let's start off with a bang: brand partnerships. This is probably going to be the most profitable income stream for most creators just because they are so valuable to brands, and it's like you get a lump sum from a brand to, do an integration, do a sponsored reel, whatever. It's going to be a lot more than some of these other income streams that are just kind of like going to trickle in over time. Not that they're not important, but they're not probably going to be as significant as brand partnerships. You'll probably make your most money doing this. And I think the route to being able to make a lot of money off of brand deals is probably starting by having a list of your dream brands. Like, who do you want to work with? Who are the brands that align the most with you and your audience, and ones that you already know and love and use? And once you have that in mind and you can, work towards connecting with them in some way, and also don't discount building relationships with brands who reach out to you, because there are some brands that I have really come to love and like use in my day-to-day life, and I discovered them because they reached out to me to do a brand deal. And then I tested out their product and I was like, this is awesome. I wish I would have known about you guys before. So that can definitely happen too. And once you have those brand connections, it's really, really all about building that relationship. Being easy to work with is huge, especially in the influencer marketing space, because as you can imagine, not all influencers are really that easy to work with or brand partnership managers at these different companies. So if you can be very consistent, very on time, very agreeable, that's kind of the key to like continuing these brand partnerships in the long term. And it's probably going to be the biggest line item on your income. So brand partnerships, definitely a great income stream for most content creators. Another one, it's probably going to be less money, but is also quite significant, and that is affiliate marketing. We all know and love affiliate marketing. You've heard about her before. She's old reliable, whether it's through Amazon or LTK or through individual companies' affiliate programs. It's a great way to promote stuff that you love and use every day and generate a little bit of revenue off of that. This one's definitely going to scale as your audience scales. So it's not going to be like big money overnight in the beginning, but I do think it's a great way to round out your overall kind of income streams portfolio, your overall business investment, so to speak. Another big one is digital products. And I highly recommend this if it makes sense for your audience, whether that's an ebook or templates or a mini workshop. This is really great because you can create it once and sell access to it many, many times. So it's very scalable for that reason. Normally, I think successful digital products will tend to be on the more budget friendly side. So you're not going to be selling these for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, whereas courses are going to maybe more lean towards that. But that's where like the beauty of digital products really comes with scale. And I think these are especially really, really helpful for education based creators or like people in like a more B2B niche, because digital products can be like a good business investment for folks. But you can always get creative and make something that is super helpful that is more in the B2C space. I think probably the most common example of this would be like a recipe ebook, though you can come up with all kinds of different ideas. So I really recommend creators getting into the digital product space because of how low lift and how scalable it is. Okay, final revenue stream that I want to kind of put on the table for you to consider is actually offering services. A lot of creators don't think about this because they're mostly focused on these big, sort of like glamorous, scalable things like brand deals, affiliate, digital products, and all that stuff is great. But I think, especially if you're earlier on in your creator journey, there can be so much benefit to offering services because when you are offering something concrete like a service that takes you, X amount of hours and provides X result, then you can charge a lot more for that because it's like literally your time and your labor and like the result that the client is getting, right? Like these are very high value things. It's not just like a PDF that you're downloading, it's like a service that you are offering somebody. And so this can be a way to make more money when you're at a smaller scale. This is basically the model that I used growing my business at first by doing freelance work before I was able to make really much money at all off of affiliate marketing, digital products, and brand deals, right? So I really like to put this out there for creators to consider because a lot of people don't, but whether it's like consulting or coaching or some other kind of like one-on-one service, if you're at a point where you have a smaller scale audience but they really trust you and they really appreciate what you're sharing, you may be able to make some money and provide some really great work for folks with services. So definitely consider that one. The final step in this six-figure content business process is really just making sure that you differentiate yourself. I feel like that's really key in any area of business, and really no matter what social media platform you're primarily creating on, it's really all about the same thing. It's about capturing attention and keeping it, and then providing value in some way. And then when you build up that trust with your audience through providing the value, then you are able to sell your own products to them, recommend products to them that you get affiliate commission off of, and recommend brands to them that are paying you to promote them. So, really, all of the main ways to monetize your content business come back to having a strong community that really trusts you and that you've built up this sense of integrity with them. So, it's just really important to keep that in mind as you are scaling, that you always balance not only your passion and the kind of artfulness of it and how much money you can potentially make off of it, but also the relationship with your audience. Because I know if you're watching or listening to the Creator Club podcast, you're not the kind of person who's in this for the short term that's just trying to see how much money you can make in the next year before you like just fall off the face of the internet and are never seen again. So you're not out here trying to scam people. You're not just trying to make a quick buck. This is a career that you want to pursue for the long term. And so that's why it's so important to keep all of these priorities in mind of the way you make your audience feel and what you offer to your audience and the way that you make money from it and how fulfilling it is for you. So it's kind of this delicate balance that you need to keep all of these things sort of in mind, and you don't prioritize one too much over the other, or else you will end up not making any money, having an audience that's upset with you, or not even really enjoying what you do. So it's kind of like this triangle of priorities: the audience, the revenue, and your own passion and creativity that all need to stay in this fine balance. And I know we all want to see quick success. We'd all love to be making six figures like this year, but these things really do take time. And I want you to give yourself the grace of giving you time to get to that point. Like, don't feel discouraged. Don't feel like you failed if you haven't reached that in a certain time frame. Like, it takes a long time. Like I told you, from 2019 when I first started my entrepreneurial journey up until 2023, like that's been a long arc towards where I am now. So don't judge yourself too harshly. You have time to make this happen, and you will when you give yourself that space to prioritize those three different pieces and really create content that you love, that connects with people, and that ties back to one of your revenue streams. And of course, as you are on this journey of tying your content into what makes you money, a really important component of that is understanding your insights and your social metrics. And the best way to do that is with my friends over at Dash Hudson. Dash Hudson is my favorite social media metrics platform, and you can grab a free trial for yourself if you check out the link in the show notes. So make sure you go check that out after listening. And as always, thank you so much for joining me here on the Creator Club podcast. I always love checking in with you, and I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.